The topic of my presentation today is forensics as a service. And what is the difference to the previous speaker? Well, first, I'm a geek girl. I'm a girl that codes since, shall I say it, 86, which is quite some time ago. I'm a techie, I admit, and I try to be not too technical now, but there are some links. And I would like to elaborate a little bit, what are we doing with this missing piece in our organizations? And the missing piece might be, everybody talks about security, and we put all our efforts into securing our systems and to develop a culture, but unfortunately, incident happens. And what then? Shall we build our own incident response team? Or do we better ask someone who knows? And whom should we ask? Is there any human who can deal with 50 billion smart things? So the phenomenon is out there, big data. Well, honestly, I hate the term. We dealt with a lot of data in the past already. Now marketing talks about big data, and yes, it's becoming conscious to everybody on the street. So, but what does it mean? So it does not only mean that we have our Facebook profiles, we have our internet pages. It also means that there are a lot of records from telephone companies, banking transactions, health records, and yes, those smart things. And all those data may be relevant if crime occurs. And yes, unfortunately, a lot of crime occurs. And yes, unfortunately, there are a lot of financial losses. These are forecasts and historical numbers from RAND. RAND is a think tank which led to the establishing of the Europol Cybercrime Center, and did a huge impact on the strategy of DG Home in the European Commission. Where does crime occur? Is it only attacks against computers, or are there also contemporary crimes that involve all those internet, smart devices, Facebook profiles? So in principle, we differentiate between crimes or contemporary crimes that use computing technology. Facebook, Dropbox was mentioned, email, Twitter, you name it. And they are, for instance, for arrangements for mobbing or intellectual property theft, ID theft, or symbol rapes. The second type are attacks against computing infrastructures. For instance, when you try to lay down the whole energy net of a country, if you try to interfere with records, like for example Alt-In, or if you have attacks against health devices. So what we know is that the amount of crimes increases exponentially. We need to be prepared. And what is coming up, or it's unfortunately a reality already, is that if a crime occurs, we have that those crimes are increasingly data intensive and provide evidence that is widely distributed. And the Norwegian may remember the attentat from Anders Breivik, where a lot of information has been found on Facebook profiles and distributed in the internet. And it was required to reconstruct the planning of the event by searching the internet. So today it's common practice to size terabytes of data, evidence from all places, but also traditional. If we think, for instance, about economic crime investigation, also paper documents, classical types of evidence. So this huge amount of data, tight operational times, because we want to bring the case to court, we want to have a verdict on the subject. Linkages between the different type of data is a huge challenge, and we need to overcome it. In addition, we need to have legal framework. Are the legal frameworks prepared to deal with evidence that is, for instance, located in other jurisdictions? We need standards. And yes, we need to increase efficiency. It cannot be that it takes months, years before we find the type or the tiny piece of evidence that may lead to solve the case. So what we are talking about, and I'm affiliated with a research institution, is we talk about artificial intelligence applied for the benefit of forensic sciences and, in short, computational forensics. What is the challenge? The challenge, if we talk about using computing technologies in forensics, is that there are only tiny pieces of evidence hidden in mostly chaotic environments. And I bring you as an example, unfortunately, the plane crashes, just Air Berlin. If you analyze those, if you analyze a black box, you have huge amount of data, and there might be only a second, a millisecond that is very important to find a decision. If you analyze a forensic case, then you look for specific properties, and this is a huge difference. If you hear big data now, and everybody said, we do big data, then most of those do big data for market research, for recommender system. But forensics looks not on general characteristics. It looks to the tiny piece of specific that may provide a clue. So instead, for general, look for specific. And most of the algorithms, and this I really try to warn, is that are developed for big data nowadays are not prepared for forensic applications. Because traces in forensics are never identical. It's very difficult to have two different cases and to have exactly the same information available. So if we talk about developing computer methods for forensics, means we have to deal with partial knowledge, approximation, uncertainties, and conjecture. And whatever we do, we need to keep in mind what we do needs to be objective, robust, and secure against falsification. Two case examples. I just show a picture of a little girl, and I think everybody from you know what I'm pointing at. I'm not going into the details. Before we solve such cases, it requires usually the analysis on terabytes of pictures to be analyzed. Finding the individual, for instance, by using face recognition. Finding context. Where has the picture been taken? Which camera has been used? To whom belongs the camera? Are there defects in the camera? Terabytes. Think about the pictures that you only did in your vacation last year. How many megabyte, gigabyte did you shoot? Because it's so cheap to make pictures. What about using pictures only from one computer, but if you have a whole network from people involved? Needs to be analyzed. And then the Norwegian may know Heartbeat. Are you? Very famous TV series. The funny thing is, Nick is a good cop in a little British a small town, just like Jörvik. And I use this analogy usually to talk about such a little cop who's one in a town, or think about up in Norway, in Kirkenes. He cannot have all the equipment and all the knowledge required to analyze a complex case. The question is, how can we support him? He may go out and find the evidence, but has he time to analyze them? Another case, banking fraud. In Europe currently, different nations cooperate under the umbrella of Europol to jointly tackle organized crime. This effort cannot be done by one country, by one police organization, by one police office. It is a joint effort. And yes, it's not only police working. In the current infrastructures, we have also internet service providers included. They all need to cooperate. And in order to have them cooperate, we need to provide an environment where they can cooperate. How can we solve it? What I would like to bring in is that forensics, as I have been drawing the picture now, must not be seen in isolation. In the past it was, well, we do the security and the police, we only call them in when something happened. Unfortunately, these times are over. Forensics becomes an integral part of the security life cycle. Proactive forensics, meaning building up forensic capability before the incident. And then reactive after the incident, where it is required to collect evidence. The term that is more and more important, for instance, for small, medium enterprises, large-scale enterprises, is forensic readiness. Forensic readiness means that, for instance, traditional intrusion detection systems are extended in order to be able to collect evidence in case an alert occurs or an incident, an hypothesis of a potential incident is marked. Why? It's not to be in surveillance. It's in order to be able to capture evidence that allows for the reconstruction of the event. In current cloud computing infrastructure, it might be that the valuable evidence is gone after the effect. So we have to start earlier. Talking about forensics as a service, talking about digital evidence requires, on one hand, legal regulations. Of course, technological solutions, organizational aspects. And finally, in order to enable to implement the first three, we have to have capacity building and knowledge training, public awareness. Talking about forensics also means that we have to clearly decide in which environment and for which purpose we conduct investigations. Is it a civil case, for instance, simple social care fraud? Is it a corporate investigation, for instance, loss of intellectual property, leakage? The first two both might not involve any court order. It might be pre-court order investigation just in order to understand better what's going on. And then we have criminal investigation, which means there's a court order in place. If we have a court order in place, of course, we can apply completely different methodologies in order to collect evidence. And to give you a simple example is, we respect privacy. If you are in a civil case, and you have investigation by one of the consultancy companies like Ernst & Young, BDO, you name it, PricewaterhouseCoopers, you would be not allowed to touch. Oh, gone. You would be not allowed to touch the email folder that is marked private. This is by current law. If, however, you have a court order, then the investigator can collect all the email that is in the folder marked private. So, very important is, in order to raise awareness, to train, there are different levels of security, there are different levels of forensics, and talking about national security defense, this is yet another picture. So, what is our vision is to enable forensics in small scale, remote, and central, is to come or to develop from a pure reactive and post-incident forensic investigation to proactive methodologies, forensic readiness, from not only to have a single event to be analyzed to continuous monitoring, and yes, we need to talk under which conditions and in which detail. We look at forensic readiness, and there's a new buzzword. Everybody talks privacy by design, security by design. We talk about forensics by design, meaning building capability for evidence collection during the system design in a balance with privacy, not be isolated. What is behind? What is our motivation? Strengthening forensic sciences. This is a report by National Academy of Science in the US. My dear colleague has been contributing, and we had a lot of discussion on computational forensics, so it made it in the report. And looking at Interpol, next to research, development, capacity building, we want to achieve 24/7 operational support. How can we do it? By human, or can we have also technology? And in particular, we are very much concerned how to deal with advanced threats, for example, how to analyze malware. And it's today already clear that not every police officer can be educated in the details of malware analysis. We need specialists for this. And it would be much too cost intensive to have all over Norway, as an example, and up in Kirkenes, a malware expert sitting. So, better to have forensic experts, technical experts, centralized with the expertise, and to enable by means of an infrastructure that case data can be uploaded, analyzed as a service, and results reported back. How can we achieve it? CCS, Center for Cyber and Information Security, newly established and opened officially in August 2014, studies the possibilities of forensics as a service together with police partners. We are originally an academic environment with the biggest information security group in Norway. I leave this, and we are quite close to Oslo. And Kirkenes is somewhere up there. Just to make clear what we are talking about. Our group involves technology, human aspects, security culture, biometrics, and forensics. So we see things holistically. thanks to different persons who have been driving CCIS establishment, the vision became reality. And if you look who were the founding partners, then there are all the police organizations important in Norway involved, because there is a need to join forces in order to meet the demands that are coming up, I mentioned. Today, 25 partners from private and public sectors. NORSIS is partner as well. And main pillars, education, training, research, and then together with the partners, application. The groups, we have here forensics, and I would like to mention a close cooperation with Police Academy. Different master programs, but I think this is more important for the forensic aspect. So Police Academy and us very much realize that in order to build the capacity needed, it's not sufficient anymore that a pure police organization, the Police Academy, educates police officers. Deep technical knowledge is required. And this deep technical knowledge, unfortunately, cannot be established at one place alone. And in a small country like Norway, why should Police Academy invest a lot of money to hire professors from all of the world when Gjøvik has done this 10 years before? So join forces, cooperate, and establish education from Nordic computer forensic investigator level, which is below bachelor level, the fundamental training, like Nick, our police officer in Kirkenes, he takes level 1, maybe level 2. And then we have experience-based master and even PhD level. These are technicians that provide in-depth knowledge, for instance, in malware analysis or image analysis, to be located, for example, at Kripos or Økokrim, to solve complicated cases and to develop new tools, because they are not the tools available that we need. I skipped this. So forensics as a service is one of our research agenda. So we come pretty far. I will share you. Norway Police Directorate, together with Justice Department, even supports this with 3 professorships, where those individuals work closely with the organizations, Kripos, which is the National Crime Unit, Police Academy I mentioned, and Økokrim, which is the organization for the analysis of economic and environmental crime. So, infrastructure is becoming the key element. In order to enable cooperation and exchange. And those infrastructure, people could say, well, there are so many big data companies now out there, just get one that does the job for me. Yes, there are infrastructures out there, but it's very important to understand whether those support the analysis of tiny pieces of evidence, looking for the abnormalities, not filtering this as noise, integrate existing tools in the forensics domain, because there are good tools out there, we don't want to replace them. It is to enable cooperation and exchange. Yes, we have all the ways available. We have proven them. We have the whole concept developed together also in cooperation with Økokrim. There are special requirements, and I have prepared some examples for potential applications. This is one, author identification of emails, where we are very active in research and publish about it. In intrusion detection, which is very important for forensic readiness, so to alert, and to have more complex analysis with less computational efforts. malware detection. And what I would like to mention is we are not working on signature-based malware analysis, but we look on one hand on memory, dynamic malware analysis, memory analysis. So I have the publications out there and would like to refer you to our web pages. And we look also on PDF, so content analysis of PDF files and now on Word documents. What is the take-home message? Forensics as a service and computational methods in forensics will help to increase efficiency and effectiveness. However, it's very important to perform tool testing in order to be aware under which condition a method works or not. And I would like to refer to one of the theorems I teach in machine learning and pattern recognition. Nice to remember, no free lunch. One of my former students sits in the back. No free lunch theorem. Hi! You have seen your name? Yeah. No free lunch. I'm not testing you now. No free lunch means if you create an algorithm, there can always be a problem crafted where your algorithm fails. So the take-home message is don't trust your tools. Test under which conditions your tools work, and better, if you are in a real case, apply more tools and more experts in parallel to have multiple opinions. Tools go wrong. Even so, we try hard to have them proper. The last thing, establish standards. And standards are in particular important to have quality control. For example, I'm member of an evaluation committee by the Dutch Ministry of Justice where forensics experts are testified. So before they got a test license, a court license, they have to provide, they have to undergo a rigor testing, and they have to renew their license every 4 years. So fulfillment of a Daubert standard, and last not least, this is the message for the lawyers. We require proper legal frameworks. On one, to have ICT and technology used in the courtroom, but also in which way can law implement it into technology. With this, I would like to conclude. Stay tuned. Please stay in touch. There are a lot of developments ongoing, and I think if we are cooperating, we will be able to make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you very much.